Well, that we have more power than we know. And if we become aware and conscious of who we really, really are, that we can change our lives. And by that, when we change ourselves, it always has a reflection to the world. It always has this mirroring image as we change ourselves. We put out that vibrational frequency that shifts consciousness as well in the world.
Have you ever seen humanity live through something similar? Like we're moving through this year, today specifically, these next coming years?
To be honest with you, every year has like its fingerprint. Nothing's the same. But we can go back historically and look at where things have happened before, such as the nodes where they were every 18 and a half years. So that gives us a feeling of what it could be like.
Before today's transmission, I wanted to take a minute to let you in on something that could change your life. If you've been doing the inner work and still feel like you're walking this path alone, you're not the only one. Most spiritual spaces give you endless content to consume, but not a tribe to grow with. That's why we created The Deep Dive, a living spiritual ecosystem designed to help you grow in community, rhythm, and real embodiment. Right now, our members are embarking on a journey exploring a core spiritual and practical teaching through daily activations, live community gatherings guided by me and our facilitators, and also participating in sacred challenges that are designed to help you live your practice and bring it to life. You'll be surrounded by seekers and leaders who've decided that they're done doing this work in isolation. If you're ready to find your people, visit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now, and I'll see you inside. Joni Patry, welcome back on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
I am so excited because this is the year that people are waking up. Just this huge wake up is going to elevate people to awareness as to why we're here, what's the purpose. I've been waiting my whole life for this, and I truly believe this is the year it's going to happen. And everything's going to change this year. And whether people are ready or not, they're going to have a shift. And all the things that I've been working for and believe in are going to be presented to everyone. And whether they want to take it or not is their choice. But I know that all of us that are into metaphysics and spirituality and higher consciousness are going to really appreciate the shift and the change, because this is why we're here this year and in this time. We all came together to experience this year. That's what I believe.
Mm. And you were telling me earlier how you see also in the planets and what is going on cosmologically, that 2026 is a turning point year, a year of a lot of transformation. If we were going through a single storyline for humanity this year, what do you think would be the biggest initiation that we're being asked to go through?
Well, first of all, opening to what is true, because I feel like all of us have been brainwashed since the day we're born. Well, I don't want to say brainwashed. I'd say conditioned to a certain belief, a certain way of believing. We've all been conditioned. And a lot of these conditions are not true. And what's going to happen is the reality of waking up to what is true. And a lot of people, they're not going to be able to accept it. And I think that's why there's a lot of there's a lot of mental illness going on, because I believe when people deny something their whole life, even though on some level they know it to be true, that they become confused, very confused, because it's hard for them to accept the reality of the truth. So what I'm trying to say is all of this conditioning is finally falling away. And what's left is the truth. And the truth is who we really are as a humanity, what our purpose is, and most of all, none of us really realize how powerful we are and what we're here to accomplish. I think we're going to start in the right direction. Yes, there's going to be a lot of kickback and force from the forces that don't want this evolution of our consciousness or humanity. But what it is astrologically, just to give you the big picture, is astrologically, well, you know, I'm a Vedic astrologer. I do sidereal astrology, which is different than the tropical Western. And it actually takes the true placements of where the planets are astronomically. But in true Vedic astrology, and Vedic astrology is the astrology from India, and we use the sidereal placements, but they don't use the 3 outer planets. And I think that this whole evolution of consciousness is based on where the 3 outer planets are this year. And the 3 outer planets are said to be generational because they stay in signs for very long times. Therefore, they shape different generations, just like my generation is going to be different than your generation based on where the outer planets are, such as Uranus stays in a sign for 7 years. So everyone you went to school with will have that same placement. Neptune's in a sign for 12 years, sometimes 12 or 14 years. And Pluto is in a sign for 12 to 30 years based on where it is in its elliptical orbit. So you see, all generations are formed, but they are not as personal of planets as the ones we can see with our naked eye. So in other words, what I'm saying is they determine our collective consciousness, our consciousness as a humanity. And as they change signs and aspect each other, they actually have an effect on when we shift in our consciousness. Just like, you know, from 2000 years ago, the consciousness was quite different. This is placed on where these planets are. Another determinant is the ages of mankind, such as you might have heard that right now we're in the age of Pisces, and we're looking at going into the age of Aquarius. This is another big determinant of humanity and our evolution over time that really reflects our consciousness. And I know we're going towards the age of Aquarius, but another cyclic process are the Yugas. And we're at the end of the Kali Yuga. So you see, this is a time of all these transitional changes that reflect what is about to occur on Earth in 2026. And going back to the 3 outer planets that reflect our mass consciousness, I have never seen them align the way they are this year. That's why I keep saying this is the year that things are going to change as a collective consciousness, raising our vibrational frequency. And where these planets are amazing. And I'm looking at they're making these aspects to each other where they are within a 60-degree framework from each other. And what's going to happen, that this is the culmination point, I think, of this year, will be July 22nd, is going to be when Pluto is at 10 degrees of Capricorn. Remember, I have a different placement than the Western astrologers, but this is sidereal. 10 Capricorn. Then Neptune will be 10 Pisces. Uranus will be 10 Taurus. And then by July 22nd, when Jupiter goes to 10 degrees of Cancer, we have this lineup that's going to open awareness. It's going to be phenomenal. I have never seen this lineup before. And Jupiter, even being in the sign of Cancer, is its sign of exaltation. And Jupiter rules spirituality, truth, and most of all, like the evolution of awareness. Cancer is its best sign to be in. And it's going to exactly oppose Pluto, but trine Neptune. I know that's all astrological terms, but let me just say this is so rare. And it's like an awakening of spirituality, our truths. I know this is what the planets are trying to tell us. And in Vedic astrology, we say the planets are grahas. This is a Sanskrit term. Graha means to grasp and take hold. So they really do kind of hold on to our awareness, and they are the triggers for events because they kind of shift where we go in our awareness, who we are, what we gravitate to, what we want. And this is the planetary energy of 2026 that I know represents a tremendous, amazing shift.
Wow. I love that you covered the cycles, the greater, grander cycles from the Yugas and from even the great year that many people refer to. One thing, and I know that we honed in on 2026, and we jumped straight to July, which is going to be this point of more awareness coming into the planet and into the species. I'm really curious what you've seen prior to July as well, especially in these earlier months of the year. What does that look like for you in your study?
Yes, I want to go over the whole year with you because it is one event after another. As a matter of fact, let me say this. I did a 7-hour workshop on my predictions for the world for 2026. I do that every year. I do it in December, but this one took 7 hours.
Oh my goodness. Longest one of all the history.
Yeah. It's incredible. But what I do is I take charts from countries, from leaders, from what's going on month by month in the sky. And actually that recording is available on my website if anybody's really interested in getting down to the real details of everything. And I'm sure you'll have my website listed. But aside from that, let's start with January, because I do see an amazing event in January. This year's going to start out with a big bang. And there's another unusual aspect going on in January. It's going to be precisely January 9th, but this lineup is happening the first few weeks of January. And by the 9th, it's where it's exact. So what am I talking about? Well, Mars, Venus, and the Sun and Mercury will all line up in the sign of Sagittarius. But what's so interesting is Jupiter is exactly opposed it in Gemini. But there's going to be a day on the 9th, they're all the same degree. This is so rare. And what's happening is Venus, Mars, and the Sun will all be 25 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, this is interesting because when planets get too close to the sun, they're called combust. They get burnt. But there's another line of thought that when they're all the same degree, they become one with the sun, and the sun puts out the rays of these planets. So this is called Cassimi. But the fact that Jupiter is aspecting them all from 25 degrees of Gemini means something beautiful will come of it, something explosive. What I definitely, the word that comes to mind, say about this time is shocking. Something shocking will happen. And these energies are so opposite that it's really hard to try to figure out what they could mean. So I'm trying to break this down. Mars is war, Venus is peace. Put them together as one with Jupiter's aspect. It's war and peace. I believe there'll be an event that will just explode that can bring the prospect of something great and grand. Now, I have noticed that when Venus does come together with the sun, a lot of things happen. Particularly the stock market goes crazy. And for the most part, it goes really high. But I think the volatility with Mars there could make it drop as well. So it's really a hard call. So what I say is the volatility will be astounding. So it will go high though. And it will. There's all sorts of incredible events surrounding this, that the bottom can drop out in an instant. And then for some reason it comes back. It's really, really hard to decipher. But one thing I can say overall, the sign of Sagittarius is all about justice and truth and making things right. And Jupiter is in the sign of communications, the media, all of that. So I think there's going to be instances where an opening to where our information will be more truthful, more meaningful, instead of all of the pretty much untruths that we get from all the media, because really the media is there to try to convince us of something, that their narrative, whatever it may be. And we have been brainwashed by the media our whole lives, not just now. The reason why it's so interesting right now, because we're starting to catch on now. We didn't know before, all the things that I was told, that, for example, Kennedy was killed by a lone gunman. That was what the narrative they wanted us to believe. Mm-hmm. But now we're all waking up to the reality and the truths of things, probably because the internet, we all have information and it's instantaneous. But this day will be so interesting. And another thing I do want to say, we can use this day spiritually, all of us, and I'm talking about January 9th, as a day of manifestation. And I'm telling all my students to use that day to put down what you want to manifest, and to know that this is the day that you can strip away all of the blocks that have been blocking you from receiving. And so let me go to February, because there's another event that is quite amazing in February. And February, of course, is the solar eclipse that happens on February 17th. And eclipses are the most important signal that we use as astrologers. I'll get into that in 1 second, because where eclipses occur are when the sun, the moon, and the earth align, and that is what is indicative of Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu Rahu is the north node and Ketu is the south node. And for those of you that don't know any astrology, just realize they're the points where all three come together, the sun, the moon, and the earth, and create eclipses. Rahu and Ketu are the points in space where the eclipses will come together. And the ancient astrologers, without a doubt, used the eclipses and knew when the eclipses would occur based on where Rahu and Ketu are. So Rahu and Ketu, remember Rahu's what we call it in sidereal Vedic astrology, and Ketu is the south node. But these points in space actually dictate our destiny. Where they are in our natal charts will reveal our future, which is Rahu, and our past, which is Ketu. And together combined, they really do tell us what our destiny is in our life. And therefore, where they are in terms of world events actually predicts the same for world events. So I'm always looking for where eclipses are as to where Rahu and Ketu are, and that predicts world events. And as a matter of fact, and I brought this book here, I wrote this book. This is my most current book. This is what this is about, World Predictions 2024 to 2042. It is where Rahu and Ketu are, and that's where the eclipses are. They stay in one sign for 1.5 years. But they take 18.5 years to go through all 12 of the signs. And so what I did in that book is I looked every 18 and a half, year and a half months, 18 months, as to where these nodes were. And so then I went back every 18 and a half years to see what happened before when they were in those signs for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And so taking it back for many years, I discovered that they really did give the sense and the feel for what we were to go through based on where the eclipses are for that year and a half. So as I've told you many times, but I like to remind everyone, I've discovered this whole concept by the fact that whenever Rahu went into Gemini and Ketu went into Sagittarius, we always had a catastrophic event. And it was when I was writing my book on Rahu and Ketu in 2017 that I discovered this, because I went back 18 and a half years ago from where they were in Gemini and Sagittarius, and it was 2001. We know what happened, 9/11. Then 18 and a half years prior to that, that was 2001. It was, that would have been the AIDS virus, 1983. Then going back 18 and a half years from that, we come back to 1963, which was Kennedy's assassination. Then 18 and a half years from that, 1945, guess what happened then? The bombing of Hiroshima. So in 2017, I know that they were coming back to those placements in 2020, and I predicted COVID. So that was where I got onto this. So what I want to talk about is where they are now. So where they are right now is Rahu is in Aquarius and Ketu is in Leo. And going back from that, we would have come to 2007. That was the last time they were there. And that was when the iPhone came out. Think about what that did for our world. Then if I went back 18 and a half years prior to that, it was 1969. And that was actually the first time that they invented the internet. From university to university, they sent an email. And supposedly it was the time that we put a man on the moon. So my point is, with that knowledge, we have discovered that it's a time of invention. And now we have AI that's getting ready to take off. So with the eclipses, that's when I'm predicting major renovations with AI. So going back to February is important because Neptune and Saturn will exactly conjunct. Where Neptune and Saturn come together, this is going to be February 20th. And this really flavored the entire year of 2025 because they were conjunct back in July of 2025. And this is a pretty rare conjunction, especially in Pisces. And what I am seeing with them being in Pisces, well, of course, major floods. Neptune is the oceans, and Saturn makes it so powerful and intense. And, it was last July that they came together around 7 degrees of Pisces. And during that time, it was when the floods hit Texas. And I don't know if you recall, but it was in South Texas where these horrible floods hit Kerrville, Texas. And that was where there was all these camps set up. And it breaks my heart because I'm here in Texas and I happen to know families that lost their daughters at that camp. Wow. And my granddaughter was due to go there in a year. It was called Camp Mystic. Heartbreaking. Neptune and Saturn were conjunct at 7 degrees of Pisces. And at 6 degrees of Pisces is the fixed star called Sheet. That is the star of sorrow. Another thing about eclipses is that wherever they're most visibly seen on Earth, it's called the eclipse path. And that's where the biggest havoc will happen when around the times of or after these eclipses. So actually, when an eclipse happens, that means events can be activated for 6 months till the next eclipse. So it's not like everything's going to happen on an eclipse, but that sets the pace and the tone. So during that time, so prior to that, there were 2 eclipse paths. One went one way across the United States, right through Texas, and another one went the other way across the United States, right through Texas. And the X was actually on Kerrville, where this tragedy happened. So getting back to here and now with the eclipse that's going to be happening in February, that's on the 17th, but the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is on the 20th. This eclipse path actually happens in Antarctica. And
Wow.
that kind of makes me think the closest landmass actually to that is New Zealand. So this could be that New Zealand will, they're prone to earthquakes. But also, what if it had an effect on melting of the poles? That would have a huge effect on Earth and can cause more floods. And that's exactly what Neptune and Saturn together on that fixed star, because on February 20th, they will be exactly on that fixed star sheet again, 6 degrees. And I've been talking a lot about oil and gas because both Neptune and Saturn represent oil and gas. Neptune represents gas and oil, and Saturn represents crude oil. So there's going to be wars or tankers or things in the event of oil and gas that takes place around this time. That is tragic. So, and even maybe in tariffs or ways to control countries with that. But the other thing is the flooding. But most of all, here is what I think nobody's thinking of that it's affecting more than anything. So consider this. Neptune deals with illusion and Saturn deals with reality. And they're in Pisces, which represents beliefs. So what I am seeing is people are waking up from the delusions of their beliefs, but it's causing a lot of mental illness because people are not wanting to accept the reality of the truth. And really, Neptune rules cults. And it's like, we have been brainwashed almost like a cult around the world with thoughts and conditions that even the media for many years and even religious beliefs that have been part of our belief system that's breaking down. And this is part of the new awakening, I believe, that's happening through this conjunction of Saturn-Neptune, plus the eclipse that happens in February. So that is giant. Then we have March, I see chaos. Mars will align with Rahu, and that could be attacks or violence. Then I see April.
There's another lunar eclipse in March as well, on March 3rd.
True. And that one is very important. I basically look at the solar eclipses, though, because yes, a lunar eclipse is so very important. I do look at those, don't get me wrong. But the focal point is always the solar eclipse, because you can't have a lunar eclipse without a solar eclipse. And sometimes it's rare, but sometimes you can have a solar eclipse, but you don't have a lunar eclipse. It's all in how close the sun and the moon are aligned with Rahu and Ketu, whether or not it's considered an eclipse. Okay. But the eclipses are like probably the evolution of what happens based on the solar eclipse. So It's like the solar eclipse is the trigger, and then the illumination comes from the lunar eclipse, because lunar eclipses are full moons, which illuminate the darkness of the sky. So it brings awareness. So you're right, a lunar eclipse. And that lunar eclipse is actually going to be on another fixed star. And the stars are actually what constitutes the nakshatras which is what we use in Vedic astrology. There's 27 nakshatras, and their meanings come from the stars. Okay, so the nakshatras are about the stars, and they are the most relevant point of sidereal Vedic astrology. So I don't know if you want to get into that whole topic, but that is a huge, we could talk all day on that. But going back to April and May, the air will begin to clear. And what I want you to know about the end of May, there's going to be a lineup of the most beautiful planets ever. So this is going to be the end of May when Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus align in Gemini. And this is actually called a Saraswati yoga. And Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge, learning, the arts. And this is what will be prevalent, especially because it's in Gemini. Gemini is about learning, education, communications. And it's also a great time to travel because they're in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is all about travel. So the sky opens for people to grow, learn, travel, and positive energy is going to abound then. It's incredible. Then those three planets, all three transit into the sign of Cancer. So then we're going to have this lineup, the Saraswati yoga from Gemini now in Cancer. And that's going to be Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury. And Jupiter's exalted there. So this brings out amazing wisdom. This is the time of knowledge and evolution of raising consciousness. This is what we've been waiting for. June and July is the time. And I also think the economy, everything's going to be working and better around the world. Yes, it's going to be working. But then we have August. I don't know if you're ready for me to go into August, but it's like...
I think we're ready.
All right. Everything is like on an upward, exciting period where we're all like raise consciousness. But you know, not everybody's going to be on the same wavelength. People, and like I keep saying, here is another thing where Rahu and Ketu are. Rahu is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is about humanity. Where Ketu is in Leo, which is about leadership. Rahu is where we're headed and where the gains are, where Ketu is where the losses are. And that does deal with leadership in the world. But one more thing I want to say about even the nakshatras. I mentioned the 27 nakshatras, they're smaller portions of the zodiac, whereas the signs are 30 degrees. These are 13-degree, 20-minute segments. And these portions of the zodiac, when you divide the whole zodiac into 13-degree, 20-minute segments, you'll have 27 of them. Remember, their meanings come from the stars. So the nakshatra that Rahu is in, during this year, between now almost to the end of the year, it's in Aquarius, but it's in the nakshatra called Shatabishak. That nakshatra deals with, number one, it's called the 100 Healers. And what I predict from this and for this year is major cures that we haven't had before. And this could be because of AI, but we are going to have major advancements with medicine and cures. And I personally think it has something to do with looking at curing disease through vibration and frequency as well. Okay.
You've also read Elon Musk's chart and how you're seeing some things around his shift toward medicine and health.
Yes, because you know, most people that billionaires, millionaires, they want to live forever. So they start looking at all the new trends and ways to heal. And looking at Elon Musk's chart, I noticed that he had Neptune and Jupiter conjunct. And actually, that conjunction is going to be activated in his chart from where Uranus is going to oppose it, because they're in Scorpio. Uranus is in Taurus. That's going to activate him wanting to find new cures to help with disease. And I really think it's going to go down the line of new discoveries with vibration and frequency. Okay. So that's one thing about health and healing. The 100 healers mean cures. And because we're looking at so much disease with mental illness, I believe, because when you look at both the whole myth between Rahu and Ketu, Rahu is actually the head of the dragon, where Ketu is the tail. And what that represents with the head is our mental, our thoughts, everything to do with our mind. So I think we're going to come up with cures for mental disease, especially things around addictions. And you know how we need that today with all that's been going on in the world. There's going to be major strides with that. But Shatabishak is also called the Sky Watcher. And the way that I interpret that, anyone that has that nakshatra really strong in their chart, like planets in it, they love everything to do with space, which deals with astronomy, astrology, as well as extraterrestrial life. This is the year that it comes out. This is the year that it's real. Will people be able to handle this? Some of them no. With the facts, they will go into denial. And if any of you know anything about psychology, people that are in denial their whole life eventually become mentally ill because their mind can't take it. So there is so much that's going to be happening in this area of the mind, consciousness, and even mental disease in curing it. But the awakening to extraterrestrial life, I think the information that we will receive from other worlds will help us beyond belief. This could even be some of the cures for disease. All of this is intertwined and connected. But going back to where I was headed with August, yes, I wanted to talk about where Rahu was and that nakshatra, but where Ketu is and its nakshatra. It's in the nakshatra in August. It will be in Magha. And Magha is, well, it deals with the throne. Its symbol is a throne. It deals with kings and leaders, and that's because it's in Leo. But there's a particular fixed star that really does give Magha in Leo its definitions and meanings, and that is Regulus. Regulus is the heart of the lion. So I noticed in August, there was going to be a lineup where Ketu was going to hit 6 degrees of Leo, which is where Magha is exactly. I'm sorry, the fixed star Regulus. Yes, Magha, the whole nakshatra's meaning stems from that fixed star Regulus. So Regulus is 5-6 degrees of Leo. Ketu hits it, and the sun comes around and hits it on August 22nd. Now,
something about these 20 seconds, no?
I know it. It really is true. And that is, of course, a powerful number because it is a master number. But on that day, this alignment, let me put it this way. Going back to 2025, I was able to predict the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Now, I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. Here is what I predicted before it happened on that day. That was when Ketu and the sun aligned in Leo. Leo meaning leadership, Leo meaning politics and kingship, and Ketu meaning loss. My prediction for that day was that there would be someone who was a leader would be taken down or assassinated because Ketu is lost. And believe it or not, I said it would be a turning point. Now, I didn't know Charlie Kirk or his organization. I have to say that had to be something psychic that I said that word for that day. But my point is, he was a leader. It was political. Leo deals with politics, and there was a loss. And it happened exactly on that day. I predicted that prior to that day. Now, remember, Rahu and Ketu stay in a sign for a year and a half. Well, the sun is going to come back around before they leave Leo. And the nodes travel backwards in the zodiac. So on that September day, it was in the latter degrees of Leo. Now the nodes are going to be in the early degrees of Leo. And on August 22nd will be 5-6 degrees of Leo. The sun will come back around and hit that point on August 22nd. And I predict again, unless we can avert the energy, that there could be an assassination on that day of a world leader being taken down. And of course, the first thing you think of is going to be the president. So what do? I look at his chart. Does anything line up? Donald Trump's ascendant is 5-6 degrees of Leo, and that freaked me out. So then what do? I looked at all of his family's charts. All of them had a 5 or 6 degree Leo planet or opposite in Aquarius. So my point is, I'm not sure if it's going to be the president and or somebody in his family or his circle, but something could happen. And why do I say could? Because it can be prevented. And that's the whole reason why an astrologer wants to put out information like this.
Yeah.
And that takes me back to when I was a child. And in 1963, Kennedy was assassinated. And the night before he came to Dallas, I saw Jean Dixon on my television. I think I was only in second grade.
She's an astrologer?
Pardon me?
Jean Dixon, is she an astrologer?
Yes, she was a psychic and an astrologer. She was on television and she begged Kennedy not to come to Dallas, but he didn't listen. What if that could have been averted? What if he listened to her? Would the world be different? I believe in free will. I don't believe anything has to happen on an exact day. Now, maybe with our karma, it's due to happen, but we do have a certain amount of free will. We do. And that is the most important thing, that we can avert things with this knowledge of astrology. So looking at July, everybody's in a high place. Looking at August, the bottom could drop out. Then I see a lot of turmoil towards the end of the year. Major events are happening that are very confusing and warlike all the way through December of 2026. So those are the really big high points I wanted to bring to your attention that I am predicting about this year. It is the most extreme year of the greatest highs, but hopefully not the greatest lows. And with the knowledge of astrology, I pray that things can be averted.
I love that you call astrology a divine science, and that really it's greater if we look at the greater aspect of why we even pay attention to something like astrology is to, and you've said this before, become aware of who we really are. Mm-hmm. And just, I'm looking at the bigger picture because that's where I always tend to go to. And that is, and reflecting it back to you, what do you feel all these events that we highlighted here are allowing us or helping us remember who we really are?
Well, that we have more power than we know. And if we become aware and conscious of who we really, really are, that we can change our lives. And by that, when we change ourselves, it always has a reflection to the world. It always has this mirroring image. As we change ourselves, we put out that vibrational frequency that shifts consciousness as well in the world. And I think this is the year we can really be made aware of this opening of conscious awareness of how powerful we really and truly are. And I also believe that because of all the conditioning that we have had with all of the beliefs and religions, remember I said the Neptune-Saturn conjunctions in Pisces. Pisces is the sign of beliefs. If we can strip away these limiting beliefs that keep us in control and keep us in check, where we're unaware of our true sense of who we are and our true power, this is the year we can unleash our own power of understanding that, yes, we can be in control of our own lives and our own destiny if we wake up to the power we have. But I think we're so blocked by all the conditioning of from childhood all the way up. Anytime we've had any kind of traumas, they set some type of reaction in us, even as adults, because it's set in our subconscious mind. And if we can be aware that these are limitations that are set because of traumas throughout our life, and particularly as children, we can have the realization that this doesn't have to cause the effects or the reactions or the blockages that we have created today. And in your horoscope, you can actually see not only what those blocks are, but when they happened. You can go back and you can look at your Dasha sequence of your life. The Dashas are the predictive tool we use in Vedic astrology based on the nakshatras. They give a whole life scenario of when things are due to happen. The big events are to happen. Now, within these frameworks, we do have free will to shift things, but we can see, for the most part, when we are unconscious, when these things occurred, especially as children. We're not aware. We're just absorbing and gathering the information as children. And that sets the tone of our subconscious mind. But through these dashas, you can see when they happened, what they're about. And with that realization, it doesn't have to control you anymore. It's like the blocks are released. You're free. And then you're able to operate using your greatest gifts and goals that you came into this world to express. You can see all that in a birth chart. And when people become their true selves and they're aware of their purpose, their meaning, and their gifts and their goals, life becomes what it's supposed to be. There is joy and happiness, because I believe the reason why most people are unhappy is because they're not following their purpose in life. They're not doing what they came here to do, and something doesn't feel right. Something feels missing. And there's just this sense of not feeling satisfied or fulfilled. That's what it is. But the other aspect that I think, and I can definitely see this, and really and truly, you don't even need astrology to know this. When people feel unloved as children, they're always searching for that love in most of the times unhealthy ways as adults, such as addictions, such as attracting the wrong partners that reflect all of this. But when we wake up to how we've been limiting ourselves through all the blocks, through all the traumas, through all of the psychological events that really we have not recognized and released, we're stuck. But once we realize this, we can open the door to a new awareness. And what happens is the joy and the happiness of this elevates your consciousness. And that's another thing I want to talk about briefly. When we dwell on all the hardships, the negativity, the victimhood of our lives, guess what we're doing? We're lowering our consciousness, therefore lowering our vibrational frequency. But when we focus on the positive and the good of who we are and our capabilities, what we're all about, our vibrational frequency is elevated, and it brings more higher consciousness. And what happens is all we want to do is help others experience this level of higher consciousness, because that only brings happiness. And what a great world to help others realize this. This is what's all going to be happening in this world in 2026. So many people are going to wake up. And as I said in the very beginning, what I feel is the most eventful thing that's going to happen this year is that people are going to wake up to the truth and reality, not only of what's going on in the world, but to their own lives and who they are. That is part of what astrology can do for us as well. That's why I call it the divine science. And that's why I call it the most important science of all. It incorporates everything from psychology, mythology, astronomy. That is all about astrology, spirituality. This is really what the science is about. And I think as Rahu is in the nakshatra Shatabhishek, the sky watcher, there's going to be even more interest in astrology, because people will start to be aware of its true power and what it can be used for.
I love that you were mentioning as well how our greatest gifts can be found in our chart, in our horoscope. And you've also said before that the outer planets rule generations. Mm-hmm. So are we able to see what are the great gifts that will be coming through from the next generations, the younger generations, from where the outer planets are positioned at the time, especially the ones that are being born right now in the last few decades? Are you able to see that in the astrology as well?
Absolutely. Because Pluto, which is in the sign of Capricorn, deals with government. There's going to be from the future generations that are born right now. And remember, it's the people being born right now that will have Pluto in Capricorn. And even the people being born this year, where Jupiter comes into Cancer, they're going to have a whole new way of governing the masses, the people, humanity. And so there's going to be a new form of government. And yes, it won't be like it was before, where we have the kings, the leaders, control, manipulation, greed, power. No, this is going to be a whole different generation that's going to bring a whole new way of governing people. And I think right now, such a turning point is we're going to start discovering, it's not going to be here this year, but it's going to start where we're going to realize that control and manipulation is not through war and killing people. Because the most important thing, I think that's where the aliens are here to help us, the extraterrestrials. Because I think they've stayed away for so long because we're such a violent civilization or humanity, we still kill each other. I mean, that is so totally wrong. I think these future generations will be made more aware of that. But now is the starting point, because I'm sure you've heard that with the aliens, or I don't know to call them aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever. But they have been known to go to where the nuclear testing plants are and extinguish them. There's been many accounts of this. Why? Because they're trying to wake us up to that destruction in nuclear energy is killing people and destroying our planet. And this is where they're trying to help us. So Pluto in Capricorn, yes, this is going to be new governments. Neptune in Pisces, the awakening to all of the past conditioning, especially with cults and religions. There is a lot of nonsense out there that controls people's minds. Well, I shouldn't even call it nonsense because it's so damaging and hurtful. And people are still using religion to kill one another. That is totally going to have to change. The whole prospect of religion versus spirituality and awareness with Neptune in the spiritual sign of Pisces. Pisces rules beliefs. This is all going to go away. And then let's talk about Uranus, the other outer planet that's in the sign of Taurus. Taurus rules money. Therefore, the whole money scheme and how we exchange money is about to change with that planet the whole time that it is in Taurus. And thinking about where it is in Taurus, it's also it's going to be aspecting the other planets by the sextile and Jupiter. This is going to deal with revelations in healing. Uranus is energy. Uranus rules electricity and vibration and frequency. And this is going to be a new level of awareness with how we work with energy in terms of healing. So these three outer planets, as they all align and aspect one another, and Jupiter being the trigger is what sets them all off and what they represent in the future generations, what they're here to bring to the world.
It's a lot of hope that we can start looking into. It's a lot.
It's a lot of hope. I love that word. And I have high hopes for what's coming.
Me too. Me too. I mean, the more I talk to people like you that have this visionary outlook on what's coming for humanity, it gets me excited about where we're going. Even though there's going to be hard times, like there can't be, these beautiful golden age periods without humanity going through a restructuring like we are right now. Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys, he said it on the podcast the other day. This is the year of the Phoenix. So we're rising from the ashes. From someone that's studied historically all of these movements in the planets, have you ever seen humanity live through something similar? Like we're moving through this year, today, specifically, these next coming years?
To be honest with you, every year has like its fingerprint. Nothing's the same. But we can go back historically and look at where things have happened before, such as the nodes where they were every 18 and a half years. So that gives us a feeling of what it could be like. But to be honest with you, I tried to trace back to even the last time that the sun, Venus, and Mars came together. Yes, they've come together before, probably at the same degree, but not with Jupiter exactly opposing them from the signs that they're in. Went back 10,000 years and couldn't find one. So probably you and I know this, that our civilization, our world has begun and ended many, many times. And in the big scheme of things, in the ages of humanity, there's something called the precession of the equinoxes, which takes 26,000 years for all of the planet, for the starting reference point of the zodiac to come all the way around and go through all 12 signs, it takes 26,000 years. It's actually based on the stars, the movements of the stars. They're called precession. And like what we say right now, we're in the age of Pisces. And the age of Pisces started 2,000 years ago. And I think we have something like about 630 years or so. No, 300, excuse me, around 340 years. And this is just an estimate before we get into the age of Aquarius, but we're nearing it. And so each of these time frames are so long, and like each age, it will take us 26,000 years. I'm sure there were times in the civilization of endings and beginnings. They say that, the Egyptian era went way back. We don't know exactly, but there was lots of things that are similar as to even the story of Christ within those time frames way before that happened years later. And where I was going, the beginning of the age of Pisces was 2,000 years ago. That started the age of Pisces. What happened 2,000 years ago? The birth of Christ. And that started the Piscean era. What is the symbol for Christianity? The fish. And that's when it started. And looking at that, that is where all the churches were built. That's where all of the, not only churches, but even synagogues, all of the places of worship and spiritual beliefs began. But it was the age of Pisces. It deals with the age of belief. When we go into the age of Aquarius, that's going to be where, the saying for Pisces is actually, I believe. The saying for Aquarius is, I know. And so therefore, the age of Aquarius is going to be where we are in unison with our brothers or sisters from other galaxies and other worlds. We will be a universal consciousness working together in the age of Aquarius. Technology will be beyond what we can imagine. And I'm sure if we understood just a teeny bit of what the extraterrestrials' knowledge and wisdom is all about, it would be beyond our comprehension. They are so far advanced beyond us. But I have to believe, because they are so advanced intellectually, technologically, that spiritually they have to be advanced too. When you have that knowledge, you have to. And therefore, I don't think there should be fear of alien contact. I think there should be joy because they can give us, or at least start us in the direction of understanding things that are beyond our comprehension, that will raise the level of our consciousness. This is where I think it's all starting and beginning. And who knows if it's not even tied up with AI, the aliens all connected. And this is where we're headed. And it will change our world to be completely different eventually. But isn't it interesting the way it can be seen in the ages of mankind, from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius and onward? It's all interconnected, and it all tells the story of evolution of humanity. And even in the Yugas, where the Kali Yuga was the very darkest of times, and we're just starting to leave that time period where, we're not going to be totally aware yet, but we are leaving the lower realms of the darkest times.
We chose a really great time to be incarnated alive at this time.
Yes.
And we were speaking about all the reinvention that's happening, especially around with the Rahu and Aquarius. You're also coming together with a beautiful tool called the Galactic Planner that is helping a lot of people see their own personal transits directly embedded in their phone, in their calendars. And now you're ramping up a little bit, and I wanted to give you the space to tell us a little bit more about that beautiful technology that you're developing with your team.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, because as I say, I think astrology is the most powerful tool for self-development. And there's only one of me. I can't do readings for everyone around the world. But I thought, what if I created a tool? And actually, my son helped me because I used to always do a reading for him. And I would give him predictions that he was like, Mom, we have to do something where everyone can experience astrology on this level. I actually told him when he was going to meet his wife, and he absolutely did on that day. Even showed her the phone, because what he would do is he would write his predictions down in his phone, and he showed it to his girlfriend that he just
Meet
met.
Wife today.
And I'm surprised that she didn't run away, but he said, we have to do this. And I'm in total agreement. Here's what I've decided I'm doing. I'm dedicating more of my time to put towards creating this app, the Galactic Planner. It's out right now. We're going to put it into app form. We hope the launch date is April. We're working feverishly to get it done. But what it does is it does your individual birth chart and gives you a reading as to who you are from your birth chart. I've written all the context, and one of my students, Shri, has helped me with this. And the Dashas, remember I mentioned the big planetary cycles, it does that too. Currently, it does all of this. And it takes the transits of the planets as it applies to your birth chart, giving you predictions for every day so that you know what days are good or are not so good for certain events. So it's using astrology as the tool it was meant to be for self-guidance, for self-discovery, and everyone can use this. And it is affordable for everyone around the world. And this is my mission, to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to be able to use astrology for their self-development, growth, and guidance. So I am so excited, because this is really my purpose, I feel, to make this available and useful for everyone on Earth to be able to have this gift of astrology. And I believe astrology was given to us from the divine. And that's why I call it the divine science. And it's called the Galactic Planner, by the way. What a perfect name. It's from the stars. It's galactic, but it's your plan, your personal planner as to how you can give yourself self-guidance on every level that astrology offers.
I love that. And I don't know of anyone with your caliber of expertise that's actually putting something like this together. So it's pioneering work. We're going to include everything in the show notes, as well as your website and your YouTube channel. And we end every show, Joni. This has been probably one of the most comprehensive shows of the whole year. We covered pretty much everything, unless there's anything that you want to mention as we wrap up. But it's complete. It's already pretty complete. But we end every show with a segment called the Final Trio, which are some questions that we ask at the very end. The first one I had for you is thinking as well of the future generations. If you were mentoring an upcoming astrologer today, what would be your ultimate golden advice?
Oh, that's my favorite thing you've ever asked me, because I got to say, my favorite thing in the world is to teach. And I love to watch budding astrologers develop and open. And the most important thing as an astrologer, to be of service to humanity. And I got to say this. There is nothing more rewarding when you give and you know that you've changed someone's life. And that is what my students as astrologers will receive, the power to transform and change other people's lives. Because nothing is more powerful and rewarding than when someone comes back and says, you changed my life. That is the gift. Just those words give me a sense of joy. And I want my students to carry on most of all, the work that I've done, because I'm not going to be here forever. And I want to give my gift of everything I know in astrology to my students. And I have a university, but this is what my purpose is to help the students carry on my legacy and take it to the next level. I want my students to take what I've built and what I've learned and to develop upon that another level of expertise beyond my learning to make this world better and to help astrology grow. Because what I really, truly want to do is make astrology mainstream. And I want my students to be able to carry on and make it mainstream and to have the gift of astrology to empower and be of service to other people and receive back from the people they help that gift of knowing that they have changed and transformed lives through the gift of astrology.
I believe we're already on a powerful trajectory of making astrology mainstream with conversations like these. And the more that people share them, the more that mission can carry out. Also, I wanted to ask you, second question of the final trio. If someone listening feels overwhelmed by the future, the predictions, or the intensity of 2026, what would you gently remind them to return to?
I always say this, that remember, everything happens for a divine reason. There is a divine force that is always for the good, and it is always guiding all of us. And sometimes we don't understand why we have to go through the turmoil or the hardship that we do, but we always have to remember it is for a divine and good reason, and always trust in that. Because when you know that and you trust in the divine that we are all a part of and all connected to, then anything that may seem difficult or hardship, you know that it's for our best and highest good. It's like you can say this, that all of it is a blessing in disguise.
And finally, let's imagine someone listens to this episode years from now, after 2026 has already unfolded, all the events happened. What do you believe we will realize this year was truly preparing us for?
I think the grand opening of awareness in the higher level of consciousness, because not only technology is going to soar and change, not only are there going to be major cures that change everything on Earth for disease, and especially mental disease. Think about that. That's going to change consciousness and awareness and eliminate a lot of the fears that we had to go through this in order to get to the place that we're going to be, which will be a much better place. And yes, we have a lot of different changes with different years ahead for us, but all of them are going to lead us to a higher development of humanity. That is what they're going to sense and know and realize. Humanity will be in a much better place.
I agree. Joni, I wanted to, for a moment, honor your precision, your mastery, your no BS approach to this work. You always say things how they are. Some would call it a straight shooter, but I really enjoy weaving together with you. It's always my highest honor, and really thank you for all that you shared today and everything that you're doing to leave behind a legacy that is going to carry out for many, many years down the line. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a blessing to know you and an honor to talk to you. So thank you so much, Emilio.
Much love.